beautiful. It's the end of the month, which means it's time for book club. So I am here. I'm in actually my old, really crappy chair that you can't see because it's actually got a really low back. And in front of the books. Not all of them. The rest are over there. I have 5 bookcases. I love books. Oh my gosh. Okay, sorry. I am so just mentally frazzled and frenzied. I just came back from work, which is why I look like this. Yeah, this is what I look like at work. I also just came back from the library, which was an experience in and of itself. First of all, this is like the first time in history I left the library without getting something, like without checking something out, or even without buying a book at the bookstore, because they have like old books that they sell for like a quarter. I left that place without anything, and here's why. It's another reason why I'm so frazzled and frenzied. They have a new librarian there, which I knew was happening because they kind of announced it. I knew that there was going to be a new librarian. Anyway, so I met her today because she was in charge of the front desk trying to learn the computer and stuff. No biggie. I was asking her for the movie Dead Poets Society because my therapist recommended I watch it for reasons. And oh my gosh, as she was typing it in to see if they had it, because I couldn't find it in the video section, she asked how to spell poet. I think that's why I didn't leave with anything. This librarian asked how to spell poet. Poet! It's like one of the easiest words you can spell. Poet! P-O-E-T! Oh my gosh, I wanted to die right there and then. All right, we're moving on from that rant now. It is book club. I was originally going to read six? I think 6. 6? I was originally gonna read 6 books, I think. And guess what, guys? I read 6 books and more. I read 9 books. I'm actually pretty proud. I read 9 books this month. Some of it was a little easy, but don't judge me. Let's start. The first book we read this month was Jesus. Let's try that again. The first book I read this month was Life of Pi by Jan Martel. Is that right? Martel. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, Jan. I've actually never read this book before. It was recommended to me by my little sister, so I watched it. Well, I did see the movie too. So I read it, and it is amazing. I like adored this book. I just fed into it. Oh my gosh, this was so good. It was just beautifully written. That's all I can really say about it. And I'm going to obviously give this 5 stars and highly recommend it to everybody. The second book I read was a library book, which has since been returned, called I, Monster. This is a sort of collection series. Basically, the writer talks about serial killers, and through the killer's own words, their own writings, they talk about stuff. They either talk about like why they did it, or how they did it, or what possessed them to do it. It's like the son of Sam. It's like Father Sam told me to do it, so I did it. It was interesting. Some of it was absolutely horrifying because like these were the actual collections of their writings and their words, and some of them spared no detail on what they did to these children. So some of it was rather horrifying. However, some of it was fascinating because I like the psychological standpoint of people, which is probably why I'm fascinated with serial killers. It's not the actual killing. They are horrible people for having done this. And there's like no excuse for it. There really isn't. But I'm fascinated with the mentality of it. I hope I don't sound like super weird and creepy now. We're gonna move on. Honestly, I, Monster, I'll give it 3 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was An Insight Guide to Japan, and honestly, that's all I have to say about that. And the Insight Guide, I can't really give stars because it's just like facts about Japan and visiting Japan, so. The next book I read was actually a play. It was Macbeth by William Shakespeare. So when I was in college, I had to study a lot of Shakespeare. And in my past master's classes, I had to read interpretations of Shakespeare, parodies or just rewritings or whatever. And it had gotten to the point that I've read so many versions of Macbeth that I actually forgot wordings of Macbeth. So I was like, I'm gonna reread this and kind of reintroduce myself to my favorite play by William Shakespeare is Macbeth. Again, I'm not creepy. Edgar Allan Poe is my favorite author. And honestly, I kind of forget how good this play is. And there was this hilarious line that I remember. Well, there's actually 2 hilarious lines. There was the one when Duncan was first killed. And Banquo was like, our king has been killed. And Lady Macbeth is like, in our house? And Banquo's just like, I mean, it's bad anywhere, but yeah. I thought that was so funny. And the other really hilarious line from it was, at this point, Macbeth has gone crazy. Spoiler alert. Macbeth has gone super crazy. And a servant comes in the middle of Act 5, which means there's like a big war about to happen. And the servant comes in saying there's 10,000. And of course, Macbeth's first logical question was that there's 10,000 geese. And then the servant obviously had to clarify, no, there's 10,000 soldiers like coming to kill us all. 10,000 geese. He was out of his rocker. I love it. No version of Macbeth I've ever read or seen, honestly, has done the actual play justice. And I mean like modernized interpretations or Cold War interpretations. The most fascinating one I did see was Patrick Stewart when it took place during the Cold War. That was, honestly, the only reason it was really fascinating was the witches were nurses. And for Macbeth, I give, even though it's my favorite Shakespeare play, I give 4 out of 5. Nothing Shakespeare has done was perfect. Amazing, but not perfect. The next book I read was The War That Saved My Life. This was fascinating. It was definitely, I want to say middle school, like age appropriate, but it was a cool story. And I found out later it has a sequel. I'm not sure if I want to read it on. I liked the way it ended just fine. So World War II is happening and the children in London are getting on trains to go out in the country so that they don't get bombed with their families, because that happened. But one of the girls, the narrator was told by her mother that she wasn't gonna go. Her brother might go, but her mother wasn't gonna let her go because her mother was just awful. But she learns to walk because the reason she wasn't gonna be let go was because she had a club foot and it was never treated properly because, again, her mother's just awful. So she taught herself how to walk, and she and her brother walked to the train station, got on the train with the rest of the children, and it goes from there. That's all I'm gonna say about it. It was definitely a fascinating read. I did enjoy the story. The narrator kind of annoyed me a lot, but considering her mentality and stuff she's been through, I can kind of understand. The real annoyance was the little brother. The little brother was so annoying. I don't know if it's because I have little brothers, but the little brother was just not a great character. Overall, 4 out of 5 stars, because it was good. The next book I read was Tuesdays with Morrie by Mitch Albom. Oh my gosh. So earlier this year, I read for the first time 5 People You Meet in Heaven, and I adored that book. I adored it. And I remember seeing this in a thrift store, and I was like, Mitch Albom, he's the guy who wrote 5 People You Meet in Heaven. Tuesdays with Morrie is also his other popular work. So it's probably just as good. I almost cried. I don't usually cry at books or TV shows or movies. It just doesn't happen. This almost got me. This is actually a true story. Mitch is the narrator, and he's talking about his old professor, Morrie, who was dying of ALS, which is awful. And every Tuesday they meet up and have a class where they talk about life, they talk about death, they talk about marriage, they talk about love, they talk about family, and it was really an amazing read. Morrie was such an amazing person, according to this, that like I was even sad that I could never meet him in my lifetime. But again, Mitch just does amazing work. This was amazing. Read it. Obviously 5 out of 5 stars. Oh man. The next book I read was actually a children's book. It was by Dr. Seuss, called My Many Colored Days. I think that's what it's called. It was a library book and I had since returned it. Yeah, this took me like 10 minutes to read, obviously, so. I had never heard of this book before by Dr. Seuss. Like, obviously, you know Dr. Seuss, Cat in the Hat, Green Eggs and Ham, and other stuff like that, but I've never heard of this book before, and I think it needs to be read to the kids more because it's talking about colors and emotions, and it's letting these kids know that it's okay to feel these emotions some days. So I do think it's kind of one of those important books that kids should read. By Dr. Seuss, come on, who doesn't like Dr. Seuss? Oh, 5 out of 5 because it's Dr. Seuss and obviously it's amazing, and I'm definitely gonna find it, buy it. The next book I read, oh my gosh, so many books, was called Death, Etc. by... So this was an interesting title. The title is what caught me, and will you quiet down? The title is what caught my eye, and it was interesting. Obviously the back said it was a collection of poems and short theater plays and essays and stuff like that, and I was fascinated. I like that kind of stuff, sure. And then I read it. I was expecting more death. That sounds so creepy. I'm sorry, but if you're gonna call something Death, Etc., I would expect death, not politics. I was not the biggest fan, but there were some poems that like stuck in my brain, and there was a monologue in there that I would love to use for an audition someday. So I found that one out. I just think it needs to be called something else because I had expectations for it and I didn't get enough death. 2 out of 5 stars. And the last book I read, oh my gosh, I read so many books, guys. The last book I read is called Songs for the Teenage Nomad by Kim Culbertson. Oh my gosh, every time. Culbertson? Culbertson. How do you pronounce that? I was fascinated. I was a teenage nomad. I moved around a lot when I was younger, kind of like the narrator does in this. And she's at this new school now in North Carolina. So she finds herself in a new town, at a new school as usual. And she meets up with some drama kids, and I'm like, oh my gosh, is this narrator me suddenly? And then she like gave her physical appearance, and it's like, no, of course, because she's movie pretty. And throughout the book, she keeps a music journal, basically songs that relate to memories, and it was fascinating to me. And it makes me think, it's like, well, I wonder if I should have done that when I was a teenage nomad. So it was a very interesting book. Not my favorite, but I can still understand why people would like it. But yeah, it's just it kind of coasted in the middle for me. So I'm gonna give it 3 out of 5. Guys, that is all I read this month. I read so much, even with the short books. I still read a lot. Guys, I have 2 months left, and that means I'm almost done with my 50 book challenge. But guess how many books I have left? 7. Only 7 books. So I'm gonna read 4 books in November and 3 books in December, and then I'll be done. So the books I am planning, no guarantee, obviously, planning to read in November are Alice in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest by, honestly, I don't know, Speak, again, by, I don't know, and A Walk to Remember by Nicholas Sparks. So those are my plans, and we'll see how it goes. And if I happen to read more books, hey, that means less books to read in December. Ugh, the librarian didn't know how to spell poet, guys. I can't get over this. I have to go get out of my work clothes, I have to go edit, and I have to actually do some paperwork that pertains to my work at my desk now, so yay. Thank you guys for joining me at the book club. Doki doki. Because honestly, I forgot to do that at the beginning. And I hope that you guys read. Reading is good. I promise. You can find something to read that is of interest to you. There really is like something out there for everybody. And if you are reading, tell me what you are reading. If you read any of these books, let me know what you thought of them. Because I like talking about books, but I also like conversating about books. Was conversating the right word? Oh gosh. But that's all I have for today. I want to get off this chair. I hate this chair so much. Thank you, you beautiful people, for watching. Uggs. Maybe it's a good opportunity to get off this chair, I guess. Wow. But now you see this, so it's like far off hug. Hey, now I have like 5 seconds in a video of my tits. Hi, Mom.